I feel there's a tremendous parallelism between Alzheimer's and autism, and this PIN1 enzyme actually supports that parallelism. So it's quite, the biology is really fascinating. It's a wonderful puzzle, and I love a puzzle. So I've had a lot of fun trying to figure out the puzzle of biology. But glyphosate causes both. And in fact, both of those diseases are going up dramatically over time, exactly in step with the rise in glyphosate usage on corn and soy crops. The
Yeah.
correlations are stunning. And so I feel people say correlation doesn't mean causation, but I think in this case it does.
Yeah.
And people also say, how could one chemical be causing so many different diseases?
Yeah.
And that's another thing that I believe glyphosate can cause so many different diseases, not just those two. And of course, all the gut problems,
Yeah.
and also some cancers like thyroid cancer and pancreatic cancer. And of course, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, all these things.
Right.
How can one chemical be so toxic? And the mechanism is actually really fascinating because that has to do with its role as an amino acid analog of glycine.
Yeah.
And glycine is one of the coatings, the smallest coating amino acid that goes into the proteins.
Yeah.
And I think glyphosate's getting in there instead of glycine and messing up those proteins. And when you start to see the consequence of that, if it's true, you can realize it's sort of breathtaking how many different diseases it could cause. And in fact, the proteins that are involved in all these different diseases have critical glycines that are susceptible to glyphosate's mischief. And so the whole puzzle kind of comes together. And you're kind of like stunned when you start to realize, for me, it was really an eye-opening moment when I realized that glyphosate is probably doing that. And it's something that's controversial. The industry is denying that it can happen, but on the other hand, they have done very good studies that pretty much show that it is what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So very interesting. And I wrote about all of that in my book.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great book, and we definitely link to it in the description. It's fantastic that you're working on this with such vigor as that puzzle. We need more people working on this puzzle, but you're doing such great work. And yeah, I can completely understand the defensiveness on this. It has been labeled as safe, and you can go right, like you're saying, it can go right to the hardware store and grab some. In fact, I had been one. Um, there's probably one old one still sitting in my garage somewhere, unfortunately. But yeah, it's kind of ubiquitous in so many things. Um, Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Let's touch on that really quick, because last I saw recently, Monsanto and Bayer have already paid out over $4 billion in settlements based off of this, and it's been quite proven in the courts, and it seems scientifically like there is some strong correlation or some causality with the formation of cancers in people exposed. Um, am I wrong in that, or
I
that going
absolutely think
on?
you're right. And I would say at least thyroid cancer, pancreatic cancer, and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and probably breast cancer as well. Those are kind of colon cancer. I mean, there's several different cancers that I think it's affecting.
Yeah.
And that's an area that I'm also studying to try to get a clearer picture of exactly how it causes cancer. And I'm gaining evidence of that I haven't yet
Yeah.
worked it out completely, but I do think it is definitely causing cancer. And it was just wonderful. I remember the moment when I heard that Dwayne Lee Johnson had won
Yeah.
this huge,
Yeah.
huge reward from a jury trial. That was the beginning of the non-Hodgkin's lymphoma fiasco, which has practically taken Bayer down. Bayer had bought Monsanto shortly
Yeah.
before that.
Yeah.
And Bayer has been struggling ever since to figure out what to do with glyphosate, because they did decide to stop putting it into the formulations that they sold to the U.S. Population
Yeah.
for use, residential use, but they're still happy to use it on the food, which is where the big
Right.
problems lie.
Right. Yeah. It's just everywhere. Absolutely. Um, you would think that if there's so much money being paid out with this clear causality with cancer, I mean, cancer, top killers in the US right now outside of accidental death, or, heart disease, cancer, neurodegenerative, and diabetic complication, and all of those start with metabolic dysfunction. What I'm hearing you say is glyphosate is uh, a a potent metabolic dysfunction agent. Um,
Absolutely.
it would, it's just common sense. I don't think we need randomized control trials we should have them, but I don't know if it takes that level of uh, rigor to figure out that it would probably also be creating downstream issues for other diagnoses as well.
Right, absolutely. And in fact, fatty liver disease is very, very clear. There's some studies that have come out both on humans and on rats. Rats exposed to doses of glyphosate below regulatory limits developed fatty liver disease. And there was a study on humans that was very good. It grouped people into three groups: the control group who had a healthy liver, the ones who had a milder case of fatty liver disease, and the ones that had more severe case. And all three groups were statistically significantly different with respect to the amount of glyphosate in the urine. So that is just a beautiful test, in my opinion, to really nail it
Yeah.
as likely being a primary factor in causing this fatty liver disease.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And fatty liver disease seems to be a precursor to so many other
Yeah,
chronic
including, of
diseases.
course, liver cancer,
Yep,
steatohepatitis and liver cancer,
yep,
hardening of the liver.
yep, yep.
Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is really
Yeah,
what's going on there.
yep.
Yes.